Have you ever looked around your church, your organization, your team, and quietly thought, if I stepped away for 6 months, would everything fall apart? I know I have lots of times, but this question can feel a little uncomfortable, but it's often it's revealing because for a lot of us as leaders, the honest answer is yes. It's not because we're bad leaders. It's because we've slowly drifted into something that most leaders don't intentionally don't choose. We do the work instead of developing people. But it's here, it gets even more important because this isn't just about leadership capacity issues. For many leaders, it becomes a health issue. When you don't develop people, you just don't lose multiplication. You increase pressure, exhaustion, and eventually burnout. And that's where leaders start losing what matters most, their soul, their marriage, and their calling. So today, we're not talking about leadership development. We're talking about healthy leadership multiplication because the healthiest leaders just don't carry the mission. They multiply the mission to others without losing themselves in the process. And I want you to keep that one person in mind as we talk today, someone you know who has potential, but has not been fully invested in them yet. And we'll come back to that soon. So, hi, I'm Zach. I'm a Clifton Strength Finder coach, spiritual director, leadership coach with Full Life Coaching. And I help leaders stay healthy so leadership doesn't cost them their soul, their marriage, and their calling. And so today I'm joined with my friend, Jake Bartkovsky, someone who cares deeply about raising up the next generation in practical, real world ways. So, Jake, welcome to the pod. Glad to have you, man.
Thanks, man. I'm super excited to be here and have this conversation with you.
Yeah, tell us a little about who you are and where you're at in life right now.
Yeah, awesome. I am in ministry and pastor at a church in Folsom, California. I've been here for about 4 years, but I've been doing youth ministry I'm doing the math, and it's nearly 20 years, which
Yeah, that's a long time, man.
I don't look like I could have been doing ministry. I know you thought he's been doing it for 6 years. 20 years that starts interning all the way up to getting to be a pastor. And yeah, absolutely love getting to serve in the church. Feel like it's what I've been called to do. And I'm just learning that there are different ways that God has been shaping my calling over those 20 years, that it's not always been to a specific targeted audience, but it's been to a targeted mission of helping make Jesus known to people who didn't think that they wanted to know anything about Jesus.
Yeah, that's awesome, man. And you married, have a few kids as well. That keeps you busy in life and stuff as well. You have a great
Yeah, I
family.
should have said all of that too. I'm a dad. I'm married. This is the craziest thing, and you might make fun of me for this. So 2 days ago, Tuesday was the last day of school for my kids. It's Tuesday, June 9th. Becca and I go to our kids' school together. We're involved. We want to go volunteer at their summer blast thing, and I'm signing in on the sheet to say like we're a volunteer that day. And I write the date, and I go, today's our anniversary. But both of us, to be fair, both of us realized it at the exact same time. 14 years of marriage will do that to you. Absolutely love her, love our kids. We've got an 11-year-old daughter who's going into middle school, which is crazy.
Yeah.
And then 2 twin boys that are 9. So that's a little bit about who we are.
That's fun, man. Well, developing leaders, and especially next generation leaders. Jake, why does this matter? Because it feels like everywhere I turn right now, every podcast I listen to, every book I pick up, every resource, it's all about raising up the next generation. Why do you think this becomes such a pressing issue in our culture right now?
Yeah, I think that's a really good place to start asking the question. I think it's funny because you and I have talked about this a ton. I think what's really cool is you and I have known each other. I was doing the math 15 years.
Yeah.
And you're one of those leaders that really helped develop me when I was younger. And I really appreciate that. And we'll get to talk about that today. But I think the short answer for why leadership development has become such a pressing issue today is because the demands on leaders, they keep increasing. It feels like there's more and more that we're asked to do. And it feels like leadership doesn't scale unless you develop leaders. That I can't lead at the capacity I want to unless I'm developing the people who are around me. And so I don't think leadership development is a new thing. I don't think the pressure that we feel around it is new. I think you could look at all of history, whether you want to go biblical and look at people like Moses, or you want to go historical and just look at like leaders and organizations. Everyone has needed it for all of time. But I think what's changed is that we are leading very complex organizations, that leadership is growing more and more complex, that churches are more complex, that organizations are more complex, and the expectations that are on leaders is just getting higher every day. that people have more options that are competing for their attention. And so as leaders, we're carrying more responsibility than we ever have before. And eventually every leader, they basically, they discover that their personal capacity, what I can do, has limits. And what it means is that at some point as a leader, I've got two choices. I can either work harder or I can develop more leaders. And most of us, or at least me, always try that I'm just going to work
Yeah.
harder first. But ultimately, that's not the best solution. We're at this point because we're discovering with all of the demands on our leadership that we really need to discover what it means to develop more leaders.
Yeah, that's good, man. So Jake, take us into your own story for a moment. Why does this matter to you so much personally?
Yeah, I think this matters to me so much because my entire ministry story is really about people investing in me. Like I told you, it's weird for me to sit back and realize that I've been in ministry for 20 years. I still think I'm the young kid that no one's given a chance to because I'm just 20 years old, and that's not true anymore. But what's really great is I look back and I realize that I've had people who have been investing in me since the very beginning. I like, if even to think about this, I feel like I want to give like an Oscars acceptance speech right now. Like I just want to start thanking people and like
That's what me
rattling
too,
the
man.
list and
Yes.
playing music and be like, Jake, stop talking. Nobody knows who Doug Rue is, who served as your small group leader. Nobody knows who Ron Collin is, that was you.
Yeah.
Like I want to name people. But it's neat looking back. This is important to me because I know that there are so many people who invested in me. And as I think about it, I think there's one thing that they all had in common is they saw something in me before I fully saw it myself. They saw something in me before I saw it myself, and they gave me opportunities before I was ready. And so I look around now as a leader who sees younger, less experienced leaders around me, and I'm constantly thinking, hey, they're not ready. They can't do this. But then I remember people thought that about me, that they gave me an opportunity before I was ready. And I think that's what developing leadership or developing leaders really is, that none of the leaders who invested in me, they didn't do that because they said, wow, this kid, he's got such good experience. They saw a kid who wanted to serve. They saw a
Yeah.
kid who wanted to learn. They saw someone who felt called to ministry. And so they gave me opportunities, and all of those things helped me grow into what I felt like God was calling me to do, the calling that he had already placed on my life. I
Yeah.
think I think about my youth pastor Ron. I was a teenager in high school, so this is way back in the early 2000s, and he handed me a digital camera. Back when digital cameras were expensive, they weren't on your phone, they weren't in your pocket. He handed me a digital camera, and he's like, "Can you take pictures at youth group?" And it was wild because it sounded like a small thing, but for me as a teenager, it communicated something huge. It said, you matter, that you have something to contribute. It felt like I was a leader, like I had purpose. And he just put that in my hands. I could think about a guy I worked with named Larry. He was the first youth pastor I ever interned with. And one day he called me out for being flaky. And it stung at the time, but he cared enough about me to tell me the truth and to call me to a higher standard. I could think about Brian, who's a leader in my life right now. He gave me opportunities and platforms that I probably wasn't qualified for yet. And he never made me feel like I had something that I had to earn my seat at the table. He made me feel like I belonged before I really felt ready for it. And like I said, Zach, honestly, you're one of those people for me too. You taught me excellence in ministry. You taught me that we plan the things that we do. You taught me how to take feedback, and sometimes it's painful feedback. I literally, in the last year, was just telling someone a story about a feedback you gave me on a message that I remember that I gave 15 years ago because it was that
Wow.
bad. But you gave me feedback, and it hurt. It hurt. Um, but I knew it came from somebody who wanted to make me better. And so when I think about like what made the biggest difference in my life, it was leaders who gave me access, who gave me responsibility, who gave me feedback, and they gave me support. And they gave me all these things literally before I was ready. And so this is important to me because I know that I was poured into before I was ready. And now I'm looking around and going, how do I pour into more people, even though I might feel like they're not ready?
Yeah, and that's so good, and it's this incredible tension we wrestle through as leaders, right? The reality of today has to happen, where it's Sunday's coming, a sermon's coming, this is coming, this meeting's coming. Like you have the pressures of having to deliver on what you need to do for your role, but also be able to take the step back and go, man, for the greater good,
Hmm.
this is
Yeah,
also what I have to do,
yeah,
and
I
that
think that's right.
tension.
I think there is a huge tension. I think you named it. Like leaders right now who are responsible for developing younger leaders, we have so much going on. I said that's why we feel the need more than ever to develop leaders, because of all of the demands that are on us as leaders. We've got ministries to run, we've got sermons to prepare, we've got families to care for, we've got problems to solve. But I think somewhere along the way in doing all of that, what I discovered was that the people that invested in me had all of those things going on, and they still decided it was worth it. And so when I look back, I realized that leadership development isn't something that they did when they were finished with their work. It was something that was a part of their work. It was constantly inviting me into that. And so, yeah, it's easy as a leader to think, I'm gonna get around to that. Like, I've got people around me, and
Let me get through these 10 things this season, this project, this whatever, and then I'll get back to it.
Yes. Let's start later.
Yeah. Let me finish this and then I'll get to that. And I feel it. I feel the tension. Even right now in the season where I have a lot going on, how do I keep building what I need to have? And so, Jake, I may ask you this question. As you're running around right now, what are you trying to do to develop leaders in real time?
Yeah, that's a great question. What am I doing right now to develop leaders? I think ultimately I've come to the realization that it isn't a curriculum that I develop. There's not like a plan that I have in doing it, but it's more so in inviting the younger leaders to be a part of what I'm doing. I think that developing leaders has a lot to do with giving them access, giving them responsibility, giving them feedback, and then giving them safety. And so the what I'm doing right now, I'm working with two younger leaders in my church, and I'm constantly trying to make sure that the things that I'm not a bottleneck for them, that I'm not someone who they have to go through to get somewhere, but that we can be in partnership in everything that we're doing. And so a lot of that has to do with just access and relationship, and developing that relationship with the younger leaders that I work with, because I recognize that the leaders that I'm trying to learn from, I want more and more access from them. And so I'm going, okay, rather than just going, man, well, when someone gives me access, then I'll give someone else. I'm going, I want to be the leader that I always want.
Yeah. We'll unpack those words here in a minute, Jake, but let me ask you this question. So often to give access, to give those things to young leaders. I have a few young leaders that I'm working with that developing. One of the challenges that I struggle with internally, I might never say it out loud to them, but I feel it internally, is I'll give you opportunity, but I know it's going to suck. Or I feel like it's not going to be very good.
Yeah.
And so how to balance that sense of giving them opportunity and platform and access to those things, to opportunities, even though it might not be as good as I want it to be as maybe the primary leader, the overseer or something. And how do you balance that tension of quality and opportunity for people?
Yeah. Well, I'm glad you said it, because I feel the same way. I feel like, if I'm honest, one of the biggest obstacles for me is that I genuinely believe that I can do most things faster and better if I just do it myself. And there is an extent where that's true, because of the experience that I've already had. I've already done this 15 times. We had it the other day. Middle school pastor at my church is preaching on the main stage, and I am filling in for him and preaching in middle school. And there was some kind of confusion about the silliest, smallest thing. It was, who's going to lead a game for our middle schoolers. And someone comes to me and like, okay, do you want me to help you figure this out? And I'm like, no, I've got it. I've done this for 15, 20
Yeah.
years. I can come up with a game like this. We'll play anything. Um, but it was funny, because in the moment I realized this is me going, no, I can do it better. I don't trust anyone else. I don't have time to think about this. And in reality, the leader did come through. There was confusion. They have a game. Their game went great. It was so much more fun. The students loved it. But I'm always fighting with that tension, like that you named, that I believe that I can do those things faster and better myself. And I think there's a lot of times that it's true that if I write the email, I can get it done faster. That if I lead the meeting, it'll probably go smoother. Like if I solve the problem, it'll get solved quicker. But I have to remind myself that leadership development isn't about what's fastest today, but it's about what's healthiest for tomorrow. Because every opportunity that I have, that I have today, exists because somebody gave me that opportunity before I was ready. And so if everyone waited until that person was fully ready,
Yeah.
then I wouldn't be here having this conversation. So I have to
Sure.
try and remind myself that's the balance. I have to try and remind myself that my goal isn't to create perfect outcomes as much as I want them. My
Yeah.
goal is to develop people that I'm constantly reminded of. I think it's an old African proverb, the idea that if you want to go fast, go alone. If you want to go
Mhm.
far, go together.
Yeah.
You will go farther and have greater impact if I'm bringing more people on and helping to develop them. So constantly trying to remind myself that it's not about a perfect outcome, but the goal is to develop people. And so, yeah, I think one of the ways this is showing up for me in young leaders right now is I've got a young leader who will come to me with questions. Her name's Rachel. She'll come to me, and she's so great at asking questions because
Yeah.
she'll come to me and she'll have situations and she'll go, "What would you do?" And what's really neat is, like, for me, every part of me wants to just be the wise old leader and go, "Oh, I am the wise sage. I'm the person who
I've
knows what
made
to
it. I am now Yoda.
Yes. Yes.
Yes.
And so I just want to give her the answer. And
Yeah.
that feels efficient. But the tension, because that's what you asked about, the tension that I have to balance is that's not development. So now instead of going, hey, let me just tell you what I would do, I'm starting to ask a different question. So the question I learned, and I'm going to admit, I learned it in ChatGPT. I was literally like, help me have better conversations with my leaders. And the question that it gave me, and I'm like, it's such a cool tool that has unlocked leadership development for me, is when she comes to me and she says, Jake, what would you do in this situation? My first question for her is, what options have you considered? Because that question changes the conversation we're having, because now I get to see how she's thinking. I get to understand the process that's going on in her mind. I get to affirm what she's already doing that's really healthy. And then I also get to coach where she's missing the experience, the perspective that I have. And I think what's really important here that helps balance the tension is that she's learning how to think, not
Mhm.
just what to do. And I think
Yeah.
that's one of the biggest shifts in leadership development. It's so easy to go, let me tell you what to do. But great leaders are the ones who are going to stop trying to be the answer, and they're going
Yeah.
to start helping people
Yeah.
discover the answer.
Yeah. That's good, man. I think a few things that you say that I'll just add to the conversation. Um, yeah. Filling needs is not the goal of leadership development, right? I know we all have needs. We all have opportunity. We all use not 100 more leaders in different places, but really developing people to see what God wants to do in their life and part of their discipleship is way more important and more effective. And so there's a young leader that I'm working with. Her life is a complete mess in every capacity. But I do, man. I think she can be one of our next staff members here in the next 2 years. She's not going to get there by herself, right? And I'm working on. I want her. I want her on our team in the next 2 years if I can, God willing. But she has. We're helping her walk through a process right now with other people, not just me, to get her emotionally healthy and spiritually healthy, so she could step in. She has all the passion. Is
Mm,
great, but to help her work, we're giving opportunities to live out her passions now, but to raise her up in leadership, to actually lead at a significant level. We got to have the emotional capacity and then the spiritual health so she can step into those. Now it's fine. Let her serve in places that are helpful and good. But I see her here.
yeah. I think one of the coolest things that you're saying too
Yeah.
is the optimism and the hope. I think there's a lot of leaders who look at developing leaders, they go, wow, they might be half the leader I am someday, maybe, and my perspective, and I think that's what I'm hearing from you too, is this person has potential to be an incredible leader. Like, they're here, and I think they're going to be here. I
Yeah.
know that's where they're going to be, and so I have this expectation, I have this hope, I see this future in them that
Yeah.
maybe they don't see yet,
Yeah.
and I just want to be a part of helping unlock a lot of that leadership potential.
Yeah, unlock what God's already done in their life, or God
Yeah,
wants to do in their life, right? It's
yeah,
part of their spiritual discipleship to help them become who God's called them to be and live out their influences, whether it's here or there, wherever else it might be. It doesn't matter. But we're investing in somebody because God invests in them. And we,
yep,
as a church, to come alongside and help them be emotionally and spiritually healthy so God can use them in incredible ways, because their character matters more than their passion. Their character matters more than their competencies. And so we want to help develop the character so they have opportunity to really lead at a significant level in the life of our church. And so it's
yep,
fun to
yeah.
talk about those things. So as you're listening to this, who's one person that you already lead that has more potential, that if you currently invest in them, God would do even more in and through them? And so I just encourage you to think about that for a second. Who's that one person who's maybe already leading in some capacity or serving in some ways. But if you just invested a little more time, energy, that God might want to do something meaningful or significant through them. And so, Jake, as we walk through this conversation, you're going to is kind of, you've already mentioned these 4 words of a framework that when you see Jesus modeling, developing leaders, he didn't run a program, he formed people. And so you talk about, he gave access, he gave responsibility, he debriefed and stuff, and then sent them back out a little bit. Give us those kind of your 4 framework that you think about developing the next generation, and let's walk through them one at a time.
Yeah, I think bringing up Jesus is a really great place to start, because what stands out to me about the way that Jesus developed his disciples is that before he ever asked them to do anything, he just invited them to be with him. I talk about this. I mean, it comes up every year at Christmas that Emmanuel means God with us. That there is this idea that Jesus wanted to be with his people, and I think it's so neat that what you see throughout the gospel is that Jesus, when he appoints or he calls his 12 disciples, he says that the whole point is that he might be with them. That before they went and preached a message, before they led, before they became the multipliers that they were, before they changed the world, they got to be with Jesus. And I think that's where leadership development starts. And so one of the words I used was access. And when I talk about access, I don't just mean letting somebody sit in a meeting, but I mean letting people get close enough to see how leadership actually works. I actually think even before any of the official like access to meetings and access to those things starts, to some extent, I tell every year we get a new batch of interns at my church, and we have to build a team together. We have to develop a relationship, and I think that we will get more work done when we enjoy working with each other. And so that level of access just starts with, do we have access in a relationship, to whatever extent? There's different amounts of ourselves that we can share with each other, but I think it's really important that access begins in going, hey, like, can we just develop a relationship to start with? Because when we have a relationship, when we enjoy working with each other, when we believe in each other, when the leaders that I'm developing believe that I believe in them, then we can go so much further, and there's so much more safety in it. Like, we'll talk about that a little bit too. But going back to Jesus, I think what's interesting is that because he was with them, we get to see the results of what they did. But a lot of times, when we look at a leader being developed, we only see the finished product. We see the sermon that they preached. We see the event that they put on. We see the results of a decision they made, but we never get to see how the decision got made. And so access is inviting people into the process. And it's this old youth ministry adage. I think a lot of what I've learned about leadership too comes from youth ministry, because youth ministry is developing young people, kids, into who God's calling them to be. And the adage goes like this: it says that everything is more often caught than taught. That the kids are catching on to what their parents are doing, catching on to what adult leaders, what these examples are living their lives like, and they're going, okay, I'm going to model myself after that. Because it's the idea that actions speak louder than words. Yeah. You could tell it to me over and over and over again, but when I see you live it out, then I catch on. And so I think the same thing happens with leadership, that when we give access, that when people see how decisions are made, that when people see the processes behind how things get done, that's how they catch on to the leadership. And I think that's why Jesus said, hey, I want to call the disciples to be with me before I ask them to go out and do anything.
Yeah. One of the things I do like to do, Jake, in my own personal ministry, but when I do my full life coaching, I'm also a consultant for build groups. So when I work with leaders who are trying to help develop next generation, a real strategic, practical idea you could do is just go back and look through your calendar. Mm-hmm. In the last month, in the last 3 months, who have you spent the most time with? And generally, for most leaders, they spent the time who are the people who are already in leadership along with them. And again, there's nothing wrong with encouraging your current. You have to do all those things. But who are the next level leaders? If you don't give them access to a relationship with you now, mm-hmm. they're never going to get there.
Yeah.
And so using your calendar to go back and just audit, who are you spending time with in your calendar in the last month, in the last 3 months, to see, hey, if I don't invest now, then they're not going to step into leadership potentially in the future. But if your calendar is littered with people who are in leadership, next generation leaders, give them access to you in conversation, then you have a chance actually to spend time and to invite them in to be with you before you just send them out as well. So that's an easy way to kind of process and think through just a little audit in your own calendar. How much time, how much access am I giving away to next generation leaders to see what God might want to do in their lives?
Yeah, I think that's really good. I like that you said I can look back and I can actually
Mm-hmm.
challenge myself and go, did
Mm-hmm.
I do this well? Who
Yeah,
was involved in those things? And I know that there are weeks where I feel so busy that I'm like, I try and be around nobody because I
sure.
have to do it myself.
Yeah,
And I get it, we're all in those seasons, but you're right. In order to be raising up leaders, to expand our capacity to scale our leadership, we've got to be developing those leaders. And so looking back at my calendar shows me, did I do that? Or do I want to do it more? Even if you just ask yourself that question, not a shame-based thing like, ah, gosh, I didn't invite anybody into those meetings, but maybe you see it and you go, you know what? If I had so and so in on that meeting, that wouldn't have hurt. Nobody would have been hurt by that. So now the next time that meeting comes up, now I can look at my calendar ahead in the next week and next month, however far out you want to look, and go, who could I invite to a meeting that probably isn't naturally on that list, but it would be a great way to give them access. We do a thing around my church during the summer with our high school kids. We do an Apex leadership program. We call it an apprentice experience. And really, it just has to do with the fact that we need their help running our kids' camps, but it also has to do with the fact that we know that they've got all this extra time. And so what if we took the core leaders, the leaders that we want to develop as young people, and we invited them into everything that we're doing. And so they're doing a ton of different things. They're serving our church, they're serving our community, they're getting devotionals, and they're growing in their character and their faith. But one of the small things that we do that I think sets culture for us being a church that wants to raise up the next generation of leaders is we invite them into our staff meetings. So we just go, hey, come be at our very literal, very boring staff meeting and have a seat at the table and
yeah,
just see what we do. And even if it feels like it wasn't valuable to you or it wasn't valuable to us, like it might feel that way, but the culture that gets set in saying that you have a seat at the table, that I want you to have access to the information as we plan things, and that we will very genuinely go, hey, as if we're asking a question, if we're seeking input from our staff around the circle, we're also seeking it from you guys as young leaders in our church. And so I think it's really cool that you bring that up, that idea of who are you bringing into meetings to give access. Again, it doesn't mean that now these high school kids or these young leaders are the ones making the decisions, but they're getting to see how decisions get made. They're getting to see how leadership happens in process, and they're getting a seat at the table, and they're being told they
yeah,
belong, that we want to
yeah.
develop them.
There's lots we can unpack there. So it's so helpful. But giving access where it's in context of meetings like that, giving access constantly just your time, taking somebody out to coffee, taking them out to lunch, invite them over just in your house just to hang out. Like who are you spending time with? So you can audit backwards. And also when I coach people, I help them proactively think forward as well. And so sometimes I'm really bad at auditing backwards. I'm way better at auditing forward. And so I can look at it and go, hey, who do I need to spend time with over the next 3 months and put it on my calendar and just say, I'm going to put it on my calendar. If it's on my calendar, it's going to happen. And so I have good intentions and don't actually do it. And so I try to sit down every quarter and look at the 10 to 15 people I need to invest into and put them on my calendar first. And then everything else kind of go off with that too. So some idea of kind of giving access a little more intentional. And if you're interested in that, we can do some more coaching around that if you're interested. But auditing backwards is helpful, but also intentionally looking forward. Who do I need to invest into to make those relationships even happen? So that's access, Jake. The second one is responsibility. Unpack that for us.
Yeah, I think the natural progression goes like this. If access is let them see it, then responsibility is letting them do it. And so when we talk about letting young leaders or developing leaders do it, I think it's important to know that the goal is not finding people who are ready, but the goal is finding people that you can help become ready. I think one of the biggest myths that we tend to believe in leadership development is that there is some magical moment when people just finally feel ready. You go, ta-da, there they are. They can do
I'm
this.
almost there. I'm almost there,
Yeah,
Jake. I
right.
think I am.
But that's the best thing. Like I love that you say that because even as leaders who have so much experience and have helped so many leaders, I still constantly feel like I'm waiting for that moment. So in my own experience, in your experience, that moment almost never comes. You never just go, boom, I'm ready for everything that I'm going to do. Nobody feels ready for the opportunity that is going to change their life. I was just sitting with a leader this week, and he was trying to develop all the right assessments to know when a leader is ready for an opportunity. And I love the heart. He's just kind of go, man,
Yeah.
the responsibility that I want to give a young leader is weighty. It's important. And how do I know when they're ready? And yeah, there are a lot of signs that tell you when someone is when you can feel comfortable giving them responsibility. But literally, if you think about it, nobody feels ready for a lot of our first leadership opportunities. Nobody felt ready to lead that small group in their home. Nobody feels ready to preach their first sermon. Nobody feels ready to lead a team. Nobody feels ready to make the difficult leadership decisions. And if we are constantly waiting for people to feel ready, then we're going to wait forever. And so when we talk about giving people responsibility, I'm not looking for perfection. I'm
Yeah.
looking for willingness. And
Mhm.
I'm just going to admit right now, that is something I have to think about intentionally, because naturally I am looking for perfection. I don't want to ask someone to do something if it's not going to turn out great.
Yeah.
But if I change the framework and I'm looking for people who are willing more than people who can be perfect, then I'm going to help develop leaders more often. And so, and this just goes back to why am I passionate about this? Because most of the opportunities that I got weren't because I was the most qualified person in the room. They came because there was a leader that saw that I was willing to learn, that I was willing to work, that I was willing to receive feedback and willing to grow. And so today I have to constantly remind myself to look for those same things, that most people aren't ready for the whole job, but they might be ready for just a next step. They might be ready for something small that you can give them. That's leadership development. It's not that they have to be able to lead the whole ministry. It's, can they lead this meeting? They don't have to lead the whole. Can they lead this project? Can they lead this discussion? Can they lead this event? So it's not looking for people who are perfectly ready. It's looking for people who are willing to learn, because I believe that they can be.
Yeah. And you say that. And I think back a few years ago when I was living in Tucson, I oversaw our local missions projects. And we were doing this massive like Christmas giveaway presents to, the school, Christmas present to underprivileged families and we were giving away like 100, 150, I don't know, 200 presents and gifts. And I remember I went to this 19-year-old girl and I said, I see this in you. And the leadership team that was doing it just stepped down. And they were great people, but they were all like people in their like 60s and who've done it for 10 to 15 years. It was like a well-oiled machine. And when I said, hey, her name was Maddie, would you help lead this thing? Like everyone that was part of the leadership in the past was like, you can't ask a 19-year-old to do this. We're a group of like, 8 or 9. It's taking us 10 to 15 years to get this thing figured out. And I'll say I held her hand and I processed and walked through it with her, but she nailed it. She
Yeah.
nailed it.
Yeah. I
And
think, yeah.
it was so much fun to give her the responsibility that she had inside of her. And there were little bumps, but there's bumps whenever, if I do it and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And even to the spot, and she nailed it. That's the year my brother passed away. And so it was over Thanksgiving. We were launching like this whole thing the Sunday after Thanksgiving. My brother passed away like a few days before Thanksgiving. So I wasn't even at church the first Sunday we launched it, and she ran it. And
Yeah.
she nailed it. And it was so much fun to watch somebody step up and grow and have an opportunity to take the responsibility and just see what God might want to do. And it's just a joy to sit
Yeah.
back and watch. But it's a little scary as a leader to give responsibility away, to give authority away. You're like, I hope this works out.
I think that's the point that you said that was really good, is that you stuck around and you held her hand in the beginning. That sometimes we hear delegation and we think it means abandonment.
Yeah.
That's not what giving responsibility is talking. It doesn't mean disappearing. It means that you could stay close and you can give space so that they can own it,
Yes.
and that you can be there to help when they need guidance.
Yeah. That's a hard balance to figure out sometimes. Like, how much is a holding hand? How much is just abandoning them? Figure it out. And so it's a weird dance you walk through as a leader. Even yesterday, in one of my meetings, that was one of my direct reports. I probably came too strong. I probably didn't. I probably was like, I gotta let go. It's gonna be okay. And so it's just a dance even now that I have to walk through and be aware of, even in my own life, of how much to let go, empower, support, celebrate, and when to bring it back when it needs to be brought back. But you just learn as you go, and you apologize for when you do it wrong, and you celebrate when you do it right, and stuff. So, all right. So access, feedback. Access, responsibility. Third one is feedback. Jake, unpack that one for us.
Yeah. So I was saying, if access is when you let them see it, responsibility is when you let them do it, then feedback is when you help them improve it. And this one can be really tough at times because I think feedback is where most leadership development can either accelerate and it can get so much better because this is the coaching that you're so good at that somebody who develops leaders is so good at, or it can stall because you can have given someone responsibility, you give them access, you give them responsibility, and then our feedback can be so critical at times because if it's focused on, man, this is how you went wrong, and this turned out so bad, and I'm so disappointed that I think there's a tendency for us to do that, but when we give feedback in the right ways, then we're helping people grow. We're coaching them. And so feedback has to be timely. Feedback has to be specific. Feedback has to be connected to belief. But one of the things that you said earlier, I think you said you have to be willing to apologize. I forget
Yeah.
totally in the context. You were telling this story about this
Yeah.
a young girl that was leading this program, and you go, sometimes the way I set you up is going to be really helpful, and let's celebrate what you did. And sometimes maybe I didn't set you up well, and I'm going to apologize for it. I think what I'm learning about feedback is you have to create emotional safety. I'm reading a book right now. I'm blanking on the title, but it's basically all about how to give good feedback. And I'm discovering as I read this book or as I listen to the audiobook that so much of it is about having the emotional awareness to understand those relationship dynamics
Yeah.
as you give that feedback.
Yeah.
Like I told you, I can still remember a time when I was a young leader, and you gave me feedback that in some ways could be, man, it was not hurtful because what you said was mean or anything, but it was hurtful because it helped point out something that I didn't do well. But because of the emotional awareness, because of the access that you and I had already had, because of the relationship that was there, that feedback was actually really helpful. So
Yeah.
some of the most valuable feedback I've ever gotten has come from leaders like you, where it can sometimes be hard to hear and it can sometimes be frustrating. But if it's
Yeah.
coming from someone who's invested in me, then it's so much easier. So it's really important that as you consider giving feedback, that it's got to come from like what you were talking about, that you really believed in someone, that this is a person who has so much potential that even as I share this bit of feedback with you, I'm sharing it with you because I'm invested in who you're becoming. um, I heard it this way once. I was reading the book Unreasonable Hospitality, and the author said praise is affirmation but criticism is investment. That
Yeah.
it just simply means that praise can make people feel good. Like we all love positive feedback. Tell me everything that I did
That's right.
well. I love that. Affirm me. Affirm
Yes.
God is up to something. Something
Yeah.
is going really well.
Yeah.
But then when someone is willing to give me constructive criticism, they are actively invested in my growth and in my future success. And so I try and remember that when I think, man, it's uncomfortable for me to give someone constructive feedback. I know how painful that can feel, or I know I can walk off the stage from having preached a sermon and go, I wish this part had gone better. I
Yeah.
wish I didn't blank. You fill it in, and so I don't ever want to be the person that comes and says, "Yep, you could have done that better." But the idea is, if my feedback, if my constructive criticism can be given in a way through relationship that it can be investment in the person.
It's good. We'll move on to safety. I'll say one thing here. Research just says you have to say 5 positive, celebrating things to every critical, hard thing you say. And so to give feedback, you're saying, and what I'm saying it's a different way, Jake. Like feedback is saying positive, celebrating things. It's saying, I believe in you. I see this in you. God's doing good things in you. This is how you are doing. Great job. So it's at least 5-1. Some can say it's up to 8 to 9 to 1. And so just think about your leaders. How much are you celebrating, seeing God work, doing things, and you affirming them in somebody's life, especially the next generation leaders? There's so much insecurity. There's so much anxiety. All those things are wrapped up in the challenges that they're working through. So you to speak words of life into them is so important. So there you go. So you got access, you got responsibility, you got feedback. Last one is safety. Unpack that for us.
Yeah, I think so. I said access is letting them see it, responsibility is letting them do it, feedback is helping them improve it or helping them improve it, and then safety is letting them survive it. So I can remember one of the first times that I got to preach on the main stage at church, and I'm prepared, I'm ready, I'm so honored that I've been given this opportunity, but I'm still doing kind of like what you talked about. I'm comparing myself to all the leaders around me. I'm going, there's no way I can live up to the responsibility that I've been given. I am going to fail. And I'm feeling that and I'm processing it. And I have this leader, Brian, and I remember asking him before I got up to preach, like, I just said, hey, if I fail, do you promise to give me another shot? Like, if I just totally screw this up, if I bomb, will you give me another chance? I joked. I asked you that. I said, if I'm a horrible guest today, will you promise to like just coach me and tell me what I could do better and give me another chance? Like safety is this idea that there has to be room for me to fail and know that that's okay. And so I'm constantly, as a leader myself, worried about, man, if I fail, is this one failure going to define me? And safety is having a leader around you who is going to reassure you that it's going to be okay. I work with interns all the time, and they'll be given responsibility. We'll give them a responsibility, and they'll feel so much of that same burden. And I've had them ask me that same question in some
Yeah.
way. If I
Yeah.
fail, will you give me another chance? And the
Yeah.
answer is always yes. And maybe this is what I get wrong, because sometimes I'm just painfully honest, is I'll tell them, hey, you know what? You probably will fail, because I failed a million times. I don't mean like, hey, as you get up there, get ready, because this is going to bomb. You're no good.
Yeah.
But I mean like, hey, it happens.
Yeah.
No one will be surprised if you fail. And so
Yeah.
safety in developing leaders is all about creating space where that developing leader knows we all experience failure in some way, and sometimes more often than we want. But being able to ask what happens if I fail, and being the kind of leader who will say, hey man, I'm here to root for you. I'm here to give you another chance. I'm here to coach you through it. Failure is not the end.
Yeah. It's good, man. So Jake, when you zoom out, what does success actually look like in developing the next generation?
Yeah. I think success in developing leaders of the next generation. You know, I talked all about the process. I talked all about giving people access, responsibility, feedback, and safety. I think success looks like setting leaders up to be willing to take chances. Like, do the leaders that I'm developing, are the young leaders around me feeling more and more confident, not necessarily in themselves, but
Yeah.
confident in their ability to lead, because they've seen it demonstrated from a leader above them, what it looks like to not have everything right, to not know it all, and they've seen leadership in process,
Yeah.
and they know that there's permission and safety for them to be in process. And so I think that's really important. I think having leaders who feel confident that they have the space to process leadership. And I think also, like I said, I think the thing that people saw in me was not my experience, was not my gifts or skills. Like, it wasn't that he's the most ready and polished and prepared, but they said he was willing to learn and he wanted to grow. And
Yeah.
so, again, when I look at young leaders, I'm doing my job well if leaders feel more and more willing to learn and to grow. I value feedback so much that I'm always trying to create more of a feedback culture with leaders and coworkers around me, because I know that I grow through their feedback. And so I'm trying to develop that. And so if I have young leaders around me that are asking for feedback, that are looking for it, I go, that's a huge win. That's what it looks like, as I've got leaders who feel like this is a safe place for me to ask for feedback, because these people that I'm around, Jake, these leaders that I'm growing under, they want to see me grow. And so when I look at, is this going well? I've got leaders who feel comfortable and confident processing leadership, and I've got leaders who feel like they continue to want to grow because they know they don't have it all together, and they're asking for feedback.
Good, man. So I encourage you, as you're listening to this, your next step, don't overcomplicate it. Find one person who's God's already placed in your life right now. How can you give them access? What can you give them responsibility for? What feedback do you need to give them? What safety do they need to be able to create so they could be successful? Man, start small, but start real, and just start this week. If there's one thing I want you to take away from this conversation, is healthy leadership doesn't happen by accident. It happens through intentional relationships over time. And in nothing else, remember the 4 words Jake has given us: access, responsibility, feedback, and safety. And that's how healthy leaders are formed. And that's how you multiply leadership without losing your soul. And so, man, Jake, thanks for being part of this podcast, and appreciate your ministry and what you do and your friendship over the year. And it's a joy to have you here. You have any last thought you want to share?
Man, I think you said it the best. I think people invested in you, so be someone who invests in other people. I love the challenge that you gave them. Think of just one person. Doesn't have to be 10. Doesn't have to be 100. Think of one person who you can invest in. Who's that person that God's placed on your heart, and then give them the one thing that was given to you. Help them be invested in. Give them that access, that responsibility, that feedback, that safety. Because, like you said, your legacy isn't in what you build, but it's in the leaders that you develop.
It's good, man. Hey, as you're listening to this, if you're like, hey, I need somebody to invest into me so I can learn this. And so if you're looking for personal coaching and development, spiritual development, then that's what I do at Full Life Coaching. And I would love to invest into you to help you give that away to somebody else. I'm also a consultant for Build Groups, and I'll put a link in my show notes here for that. If you want somebody to come alongside and help you organizationally develop a culture of leadership development, how do you discover, develop, and deploy new leaders? And I'd love to have a conversation with you about that to see how we come alongside and help you create a culture of leader development in your life and in your organization. So reach out if you have any questions there as well. Did you have that thought, Jake? Okay. So if this episode is helpful, man, I encourage you to subscribe to our Full Life podcast. You can leave a review. I encourage you to share it with another leader who could be encouraged, who could use some encouragement in their life right now. And again, I'll go back and invite you to something practical. Think of one person who you're currently leading. This week, give them one of those 4 things and pay attention to what shifts in them and what shifts in you, which is probably even more important as well. And if this conversation surfaced something for you, maybe you realize that you're carrying too much or you haven't been developing people in a healthy way. And that's exactly what I do. I help leaders work through in coaching. So because most leaders don't need more information, they need a healthier way to lead. And so you can learn more at fulllifecoaching.com. And if the episode was helpful for you, again, subscribe, leave a review, share it with a leader who needs to stay healthy and living in their calling, because your leadership should never cost you your soul, should never cost you your marriage, should never cost you your calling. And so until next time, be a healthy leader, stay a healthy leader.